Welcome back. New questions being raised about the Trump Organization's business practices. Surprise, surprise. The Washington Post reports that about a dozen undocumented workers were suddenly fired from Trump National Golf Club in Westchester County earlier this month. David Farenthold is one of the reporters who broke that story. We're going to talk to him about it in just a moment. But first, here's NBC's Kate Snow.
For 14 years, Gabriel Sedano worked in building maintenance at the Trump National Golf Club in Westchester County, New York.
Like painting, plumbing, like everything we had to fix in there.
In the apartment he shares with a wife and 3 kids, he showed us his uniform and years of pay stubs. Maria Priego was a seasonal housekeeper at the Trump Club for 3 years, both from Puebla, Mexico. They crossed the border on foot. Why did you come here illegally?
To give them a better life.
You wanted to work?
Yeah, I do want to work.
Maria and Gabriel both say they presented forged green cards and Social Security cards when hired. They didn't ask any questions?
No, any questions, no, nothing.
Did anyone at the Trump Golf Club direct you to get false documents?
No.
But Gabriel told us he thinks people at the highest levels of the Trump Organization knew they were hiring undocumented workers to save money, paying low wages and no benefits. Do you think they knew at the club that your documents were false?
That's like what I think, like because they need employees and like they don't check like really good.
Our jobs are being stripped from our country like we're babies.
Gabriel says President Trump spoke with him during his years at the club and suspects the president also knew there were undocumented workers on staff.
I can like be sure about that, but like he gotta know. Like
you think the president must have known?
He must know. We
spoke with 6 former club workers on camera and others who didn't want their faces shown. A dozen say they were fired on January 18th. Margarita Cruz recorded her meeting. In a statement to NBC News, the Trump Organization's Eric Trump says, "We have tens of thousands of employees across our properties and have very strict hiring practices. If any employee submitted false documentation in an attempt to circumvent the law, they will be terminated immediately. We take this issue very seriously. This is one of the reasons my father is fighting so hard for immigration reform. The system is broken." Now, the workers' attorney is taking some of them to Capitol Hill to meet with Democrats.
The Trump Organization is a criminal enterprise. There is a federal crime here, and these people who were fired are material witnesses to a federal crime.
David Farenthold, of course, you originally breaking the story for the Washington Post. And this seems to be a systemic problem for the Trump Organization.
Yes, it's the second golf club where it's been found. The New York Times wrote a story last year about Bedminster, the Trump golf course in New Jersey, where he often goes, that had a number of undocumented workers. They fired a number of undocumented workers there as well. So this is 2 places. They seem to be doing an organization-wide check now, and so I think as that goes on, we're going to probably see more instances like this at other Trump clubs.
The president, we found some campaign sound from him in 2015 in Phoenix talking about these issues. Take a look at that.
By the way, officially, and I've only said this about 200 times, but it never gets reported, I love the Mexican people. I love the spirit of the Mexican people. I love them. Many, many people from Mexico, legal. They went in the old-fashioned way. They're legal. Many, many people from Mexico work for me. And over the years, thousands of people, Hispanics, have worked for me. And many, many work for me now. But thousands. They're incredible people.
So, of course, first of all, that claim, as your reporting shows, not the case. But obviously the issue here is the hypocrisy, considering the policies that he's pushing on the one hand and his behavior on the other.
That's right. What Trump has said throughout the campaign, and particularly in the last month during the shutdown, is that immigration there's an issue of crime, all these other things. It's a moral issue. Letting immigrants into this country, we want to be nice to them, but if we let them in, it drives down wages for Americans, it takes jobs away from Americans. So this is a chance to see when Donald Trump wasn't in the spotlight for this, when he was conducting his private business, and when hiring Americans and paying them more would cost him a little money, how did he apply that moral lesson to himself? Did he go out of his way? Did he perform audits to figure out whether the documents that he had on file were legitimate? And the answer appears to be no. The workers we talked to in Westchester who were fired a week ago, the documents that the Trump organization audited and determined to be inauthentic, they'd had them on file for 10 years, 15 years. They were there for the checking if they cared to check. And it was clear that they had not made any sort of extraordinary check at anything like what they've done now over the years, even as Donald Trump was saying that immigration, and particularly sort of the low wage effects of immigration, was one of the most important issues facing the entire country.
And do you have a sense from your reporting if the president was involved in the decision-making around this? I mean, obviously he's supposed to have recused himself from his companies, but he also talks to his children all the time.
We don't really know. I mean, we've asked Eric Trump, who y'all quoted, who is the sort of functional head of the Trump organization now, if his father had any role in this. We've asked the White House. Neither one of them's addressed this. Eric Trump, could have taken this decision by himself. We don't really know about that connection.
Ken Delaney, I want to ask you about another Trump family-related story that unfortunately was slightly buried under an avalanche of news, but that does not make it any less important, which is that Jared Kushner, you found, he was essentially denied a security clearance, and that denial was overridden by a political appointee. Do I have that right?
Not quite a political appointee, a career official who had been hired, though, by the Trump administration, kind of a lateral move. I mean, so the upshot of this story is that two career security specialists in the White House found that Jared Kushner was unfit to see the nation's secrets. And then they were overruled.
And this was because of?
It was because of the things we all know about Jared Kushner, the foreign entanglements, the business, the meetings that he had with the Russian during the campaign, things that would have get any normal person disqualified for a security clearance, because foreign contacts, they take it very seriously, sometimes to a fault. You're supposed to disclose every foreigner that you've met over the years. It's sometimes very difficult, sometimes unfair, but those are the rules, and the rules were not applied to Mr. Kushner. And there's another beat to this too, actually. This happened 30 other times, so to other White House officials who remain unnamed, and that is unprecedented. And then when Kushner was trying to get another type of clearance for sensitive compartmented information, the really juicy stuff, the NSA intercepts, CIA source reporting, that went over to the CIA. CIA adjudicators called back to the White House and said, how did you even give him a top secret clearance? And as far as we understand, the CIA has not given Mr. Kushner that super sensitive clearance, and it's hard for many people to understand how he's doing a job overseeing Middle East peace if he doesn't have access to the most sensitive intelligence.
It's a very, very good question. Ken Delaney and David Farenthold, Eli Stokols, thank you all very much for your insights tonight.